All right. Hello, everybody. This is your boy Doc here. This time, broadcasting for Best Websites, a brand new website that allows you to vote on some of the hottest sites on the net, get some inspiration, maybe even submit your own, see what people think about your site. Anyway, that'll be found at bestwebsite.com. And today, I am joined by designer, buddy, homie, drinking friend, pose a toast, my homeboy Umi Workshop, aka John Lewis, live from San Francisco. How's the Bay?
It's great. Well, speculative. The weather's kind of funky, so.
Yeah, it's like late July. What it feels like up there right now?
It feels like it's trying to be summer and it doesn't know how.
I just remember, and it's stupid because it's a Mark Twain thing. I went to a Seabold show a few years back in August, and I was tripping how freaking cold it was, like August 10th. I was blown away by that.
Everybody tells me that real summer happens at like in October or something.
Really? Oh, that's cool. Interesting. Anyway, so the reason why I brought John on is John is a designer, and well, of course, you have a couple of major pillars of websites and sort of what makes things work and not work. And well, I could sit here and tell you, but I'm like, let's bring in I don't want to tease him and call him an expert. We're gonna bring in an expert and have him tell us what are some of the things that one needs to know when they're looking to build, quote unquote, the best website. It goes with the thing. So, John, tell us a little bit about your design background. Like, how did you get started designing?
Let's see. Well, okay, I'm classically trained art in general, so that was kind of like a natural kind of like progression into commercial art. And I started playing around with like producing like print work and layout and all sorts of stuff like that, and realized that if you're gonna do anything creative and also be able to work with other people and collaborate with them and also make a living without having to like play that game of the art world, then design is like a place that you can go. And that was sort of the door that opened for me. But then I quickly realized that design is not like, it's not self-expression or anything like that. You're not creating something for your own sake. Because if you are, you're probably not a good designer. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got started. I pivoted from being an artist to being a designer. But I feel like both of them are skills that you can grow off of at the same time. So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of people get stuck in the that gray area of what's an artist and what's a designer, right? And in a way, if you're way too, say, art focused, that maybe get in the way of your design, especially ability to listen to what the customer wants. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Is that something, being an artist first, is that something that you struggle with from time to time? And if so, how do you deal with that?
Oh, well, I feel like art has a place with design. It's kind of a marriage. But I also feel like design cannot be approached in the same way that art is approached from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, you could have a project that's being designed that includes art direction inside of it. You know what I mean? But like design is more like how does it all come together, and not so much about like what is the art that's happening here. So like you might commission somebody to do artwork for you that lives inside of a design. And like those are very separate things. But at the end of it all, a design can be considered artwork because it's so beautiful and because of how it pulled everything off. And I feel like that's the distinction, right? Like you can arrive at art, but you can't just go into it and just be like, this is art.
Nice.
Art doesn't really solve problems. It just communicates an idea or something like that.
Hey, you just brought up something really cool. I am a strong believer in good design solves problems. And I guess part of that comes from my history of working at Apple, and they do a really good job at it. But then it's not just them. I look at stuff all the time. Like I'm a big fan of BMW, and even in the cars, I find things that really, really solve problems, like the ergonomics or where something is. And I think we get so caught up in websites and logos and print work and things like that. A lot of people even forget about industrial design. So, being that you brought that up, do you have an affinity for like industrial design, or something that's a little bit more touchy feely?
Oh, I love it. It's like a thing that I know for a fact I'm going to get into before I get put in the ground one day. Like, I mean,
Can you design me a chair?
yeah, I mean,
I
like,
hate every computer chair on the market right now. Literally, maybe with the exception of course, the Herman Miller. But you know, yeah, I literally don't think I've sat in a computer chair where I'm like, okay, I can sit here all day and never hate it.
yeah,
And that's what we do. Like, I know from working in the past with you, we'll be sitting down, then you got to stand up, then you got to sit back down, you got to move around. Hey, that would be a solid. Like, I really think it takes a design thinking person to come up with a design for that. Okay, let me ask you this question. This is kind of a tough one because I sit on the fence about this whole design thinking movement. Um, I see the parts of it, and I personally think other parts of it, they're making things sound more complicated than they are. So, what is your introspection say on design thinking, though, especially the way, not the, okay, the way that they're coining the phrase right now? How's that?
mm. Yeah, it's a trendy topic. Just like flat design is a trendy topic, But just because it's a topic doesn't mean just because the topic is trendy doesn't mean that it itself is trendy. You know what I mean? Like, design thinking has been around for a really long time, and it's not like, I don't look at it as a set of rules or anything like that. Like, you can have like people teaching it, and you can have your own like version of how you apply it to your world. But I think it's just what's logical and what works, and what's the least amount of action necessary for the most amount of reward. Like, that is real design thinking. So, like, for example, there was this one. I had a friend who was telling me about this school where the kids wouldn't eat the lunches, right? And they didn't know why. Everybody was throwing their food away, and they ran some tests and found out that what they needed to do was just change the way that they serve the food and the plates they come on. And so they changed the arrangement of that, and the kids would eat their lunches. You know what I mean? Like that.
Man, that's crazy.
A normal person would have just said, well, why don't we just serve something different? You know what I mean? Like, it's a very different approach to a really common problem, and you can change the world just thinking like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, you ever get like I'm trying to think of one that I can think of the top of my head, but you go somewhere and you get like the Lunchables, right? The old school Lunchables versus new school Lunchables. New school Lunchables are set up in a manner like you can do everything in one little thing. Like, you don't have to spread it across the table, like it all fits in that dish, and you can eat it directly out of that dish. Whereas the original ones, it just came in a box with individually wrapped stuff. And so if you were in a moving vehicle, which is probably one of the best places to eat a Lunchable, like, crap would fly everywhere. And they kind of redid the packaging so it can hold your little cheese dip, or the jelly dip or whatever you got. And so, yeah, I kind of see that. That's I love it when I come across stuff like that, and I normally say out loud to myself, hey, that was pretty good. Or vice versa, when you get something that's really bad or bad packaging, I go, what the crap is this? Why am I having to get an act of Congress to open up this stupid ballistic package to get a set of headphones out? Like, that kind of crap drives me insane.
And that, like, even, I mean, I feel like that sort of experience is, like, a lot of times it's just under that pyramid of theft deterrent and stuff like that, but, like, it's not really stopping anybody from stealing anything, like, I don't know. I feel like all that plastic and just, like, poor use of packaging, and none of it is smart. It's just a bad idea.
Okay, so my next question is as follows. What do you think are some of the things that a person needs in order to be a good designer? What's that skill set or that, it factor, if you will?
The skill set, that's a big question, just because design is like a whole bunch of different
gamut of stuff. All right, so more. What about just maybe personal traits then? Because yeah, you're right. The skill set thing could be for anything.
I think maybe one of the things at the top of that list would just be an observer. Be the sort of person that that takes in everything around them and then tries to figure out you know, from an outside perspective, you know, what you can do to make things better. You know, there's a lot of people talk a lot about being really close to a project, like so close that you just like it's right there in your face and you can't see the whole picture. And like that's a really important trait to have, is to be able to step back from something and understand how the system works as a whole. Like, how does this work fit into somebody's life? It's probably not as important as you think it is, unless you're designing, you know, something that's going to save their life, or you know, something like that. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, context and understanding like where something lives in the grand scheme of things, that's like a really important skill to have, and it's hard to learn if you don't have it.
I think that's where somebody like, you know, design guys like Johnny Ives come in, or even, you know, car guys like Carroll Shelby back in the day where they came in. Everybody was producing the X body, X type, same car, same thing. And then Carroll saw it, like, why is a person leaning over in their chair to grab that shifter? So he brought it up higher and put the armrest right there. And in some of the early Cobras, you had some of the first wrist shiftable cars. You don't even move your arm. Like, you're holding the wheel, and you just crank your wrist back and forth, and you can go through all of the gears. You know, out of all the American cars, maybe the one that's most famous would be like the Fiero. I remember with a Fiero driving one, you could literally shift the gears just like this without moving your whole arm. And I think he was one of the first car guys, him and Zorba, the guy who did the Corvette. They were some of the first guys that realized that, man, the faster you can move that and get your hands back on the wheel, the safer it is for everybody. And then now you see pretty much everything comes with flappy paddles. And of course, you know, Johnny was able to deliver the vision of you know, Steve, and figure out that some things just didn't make sense about the way we used our devices. And it's not just the iPhone and the iPad, even just computers. Like, they figured out things that didn't seem to make sense, and they moved it where it needed to go. And I just remember being, you know, as a part of the tech news cycle, everyone saying, oh, this is crazy, like, this is dumb, like, it needs a keyboard. And now we don't even think about it anymore. You know what I mean? Some of this stuff has only been 5 years old, and you totally forget that it used to suck 5 years ago. So I think that's kind of an interesting sort of outlook.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess another good question for you is, man, you're a very multifaceted designer. Like, I've seen a lot of your stuff, and you do all kind of things, from like comic books to typesetting to hand lettering to paper design, print design, or whatever. So where does someone like you, where does Umi draw that inspiration from? Like, is it pretty much this glass of Knob Creek right here? Or what are you sipping on, by the way?
This is Jameson.
Mm.
No, sorry, no, this is Bullet Bourbon, actually.
This is Knob Creek Rye, 9-year edition. Thank you, Jim Beam Incorporated. Anyway, so where does Umi get his inspiration from?
Sometimes it is, you know, different sorts of intoxicants. That works.
That's true.
You know, like if you're in the zone a little bit and you just kind of want to like keep it going, like it's good to sort of help yourself unwind. But like general inspiration, like I have so many interests. You know, like music is a good one. Like non-visual things are pretty inspiring to me. Seeing other people learn things is really inspiring to me. Like watching somebody figure something out for the first time is like super inspiring. I love that. And then outside of that, I would say like anything that isn't digital is usually inspiring to me. Because a lot of times, like in the digital world, like, you know, we're playing with apps and stuff like that. We're looking at things, we're looking at like people are solving like these little tiny problems, but it's cool to see somebody, you know, concept a bridge design, or like, you know, think about what a new like airport might look like, or, you know, those sorts of things. And I feel like if you want to be a great designer, like you need to have like a more holistic view of the world. You know,
nice.
Look at how people are solving like physical problems, digital problems, how those things come together. You know, like that's all part of the game. And if you're not paying attention to those things, then you're in a box somewhere. You know?
Right. So would you say, like, are you like me? Like, I'll get something that I buy, and then I start opening up the packaging. And when it's really, really good packaging, like I gotta stop a moment and absorb how cool the packaging is because it just seems to work. Like, do you find yourself in that situation where you're like inspecting packaging while you're on your way to open something?
Yeah, I mean, when I used to buy things, yeah, before I moved to San Francisco, got hit
Now
with
you can just make it.
cost of living.
Oh,
But
that's true.
but I'd say like packaging design on its own like is an amazing thing. Just to begin with, like the idea of designing an experience that's only going to happen once. Like the outside of it is probably the easiest part. Like, let's design something that looks really cool and catches your eye on the shelf. Like, that's fun. But the experience of like deconstructing that and then discovering the product inside, like that whole birth is like you're creating a legit experience. You know what I mean? If you're actually doing real packaging design, if you're just creating like something to sit in front of, like that's different. But
I love the new trend of certain package guys saying, okay, save this piece and use it for this thing later. Like, you know, I kind of remember one that I recently saw, but as you took the packaging part, you ended up with this cardboard that would otherwise be useless, but they told you to use it as a seed starter to kind of start, like growing some herbs on your kitchen. And it was a food product, but it was neat how they did that in the package, and I thought that was kind of cool. You mentioned that one of your inspirations come from music. So what's currently bumping on your Spotify to get you in that beast mode?
all right, wait. So let's pump the brakes.
Yeah, because I know that's a hard question, but you always, when we used to work together, man, you would crank it up late at night when we go on our little sessions, and you always had something good to get you in the mood.
Here's the thing. I don't use Spotify.
Sorry, random music. I just picked the service.
I'm an RDO user.
RDO, I remember that now. My bad.
They need some help. I'd love to, if you're listening, guys at RDO, I'd love to come by and
show them what's up.
Anyway, yeah, so what's been on rotation? Let me see. Been listening to a lot of Erykah Badu lately, but
love her.
Some outside influences. Let's see here. Fits in the Tantrums lately. Chet Faker, Angel Hayes, Azalea Banks. Just like been listening to a lot of trap in the office lately. Which is kind of interesting because
because you used to hate on me for playing trap in the office.
No. Before I started working where I'm at, that wasn't a thing really, and then I kind of like started sifting in like some crazy hype, like trap.
Nice. That's cool. All right, let me ask you this question. What do you think, especially from someone who's already really good, what would you suggest to someone getting a start, or maybe they got to start and they're just feeling a little plateauy? What would you say someone can do to either learn stuff or just to get better?
I'd say surround yourself with like the most inspiring people that you can find to begin with. The rest will happen on its own usually. But if you can't do that, then just read and experience as many things as you can, and just do what you love every single day. Like, if you really love making things and you love like communicating ideas, and like, because that's really what design is communicating and problem solving. If you love that, then just do it every day. You know what I mean? Like,
so what's a good way to do it online if, say, somebody lives in West Bumhill, Peoria, and they got nobody nearby them?
Start a personal project.
Nice.
Like, that's the best thing. I feel like personal projects are like really important for growing, and they're refreshing too. Like if you have a full-time job and you get home and you're just like, oh, I want to work on something, but I don't want to work on work stuff. I just want to do something that's like on my own terms, my own timeline, whatever. Like, personal projects are awesome, and people love them. Like you can amass a following with something that you thought wasn't going to be a big deal,
I do find it a little bit telling that some of the best sites on the web are portfolios for like designers or designer wannabes or developers. I do think that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right, so we got this client. We're gonna call him Client X. He's Mr. Potato Head. I can say that because somebody gave me this because they thought I looked like this. I have no idea what the hell they were talking about. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's this right here. This is what sets it. Now, does it look similar?
Wait, which one is which?
Shut up. Anyway, so the customer got this site, you know, and they roll up into the Umi workshop, and maybe they're trying to figure out what they could do to put like a little steroids on their site. So I guess in simplest terms, what makes a good site become great, and what are some of the simplest things somebody can do to improve their site design?
Clarity and good content, I guess. I mean, it really just depends on what it is for the most part, but there's this whole like market of like let's make marketing sites for people. Like that whole world is flooded with just all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Like you can go find a template for a marketing website, which is what most websites are, marketing websites. You know, but if you have a product that's like a web product, like I don't know, Rdio for example, or you know, something that runs online where you have users, that's a totally different conversation. There's really different. But like if you just have like your little website and you're just trying to make it better, it should all be about content. You know, like if you can't communicate your ideas to people, then you should rethink that whole thing. There isn't like a little bit of secret sauce that you can just drop on it and make it better all of a sudden, other than just making things really clear and easy to digest and pleasurable. You know, like if the user lands on your site and like they feel something, which is a really hard thing to measure, but you know what I mean? If people comment on that and they're just like, oh, I really like this, it feels great, and I understand what you're doing, and like I want to see more. You know, like if people are saying those things to you, then you're doing something right. You know?
Yeah, look, check this out. I'm gonna switch over. I'm gonna show you this RDO site that you mentioned. I absolutely love this site. Number one, I like the fade of all of the great heads, right, that they're showing, right? Especially you got your boy Questlove right dead in the center. And, you know, he's one of the best. But what I really like about this site is when you scroll down here to the bottom, I like this use of, you know, as you move over certain elements, how they do a little CSS transition and they kind of pick up. I also like the pointillized graphics as they're showing you the map and like where it's available. Like these guys, they got a pretty decent team going on in the design space over here. So also like the color thing down here, and also like if you look at this, they got their testimonial parts popping up, and they really handled it in a super nice way.
Oh yeah.
So, I definitely love the way RDO handled their business. Like,
You know who's got a great marketing page now?
Who's that?
Squarespace.
Oh yeah, I use Squarespace, man. I love that. Let me pull that up real quick
Marketing pages
for the folks at home. Yeah, Squarespace is super money. I love. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick. There. I love how if you look at the way that they're doing this, what's really cool is that there's this interaction, you know, as you move through the different spaces, and you see the hands come up and they touch various things, and you can pick up the canvas. And I mean, I just really love that. Like, these guys are epic, you know. And they really only changed this. I'm gonna say it was about 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's pretty.
One thing that you can say really handy about, I guess, sites in general is don't be afraid to change it up, you know. And then if it don't work, then like change it up again, you know. Especially if you're lucky enough to have an in-house team.
Yeah.
You know. Like too many people, like I look at sites all the time and they're coming from like, you know, 10 years old and like, well, we don't know what to do, you know, and I'm like, just change it and see what happens. That's like the A/B split testing joint, right?
Right. Yep.
All right. So before we roll, let me ask you, what are some of your like tips or tool recommendations or a site that maybe, you know, guys that are trying to get their steez on, they should be up on, something that should be in their little their toolbox? You got any recommendations?
Let's see. I have designers that are well, just follow anything that posts work that's just really great. outside of Dribble.
Like Forest?
No, like more like shipped, completed work that you can play with. Like I like Dribble, it's cool, but like most of the stuff that you see on Dribble is never going to see the light of day. And a lot of it is just like, hey, check out this thing that I prepared specifically for Dribble. You know what I mean? Like it's very presentation oriented, and that's not the best thing ever. It's cool for hunting talent and like looking at cool stuff, but if I was going to go like look for inspiration on a level of like how does this work and how well is it being pulled off, I would go somewhere like Site Inspire. They're a really good example of like industry leading just single element websites. September Industry is really amazing. They cover like small agency shops that do like branding work for like retail and high end type stuff. The Die Line is a really good website for print work. It's mostly just like packaging design or anything that's being printed. And then like one of the best websites I can recommend for just reading about design in general, like overall design, would be Design Observer, which was it's kind of like an online newspaper that was founded by Michael Beirut from Pentagram and a bunch of it's kind of like really, really easy to just like get in there and like read and read and read. And you're reading about like award shows and like people in like Switzerland and like just like a very global scale of design. So it puts you in your place. You know what I mean? And like that's really important to understand. Like you might think you're great, but you're probably just gonna shit your pants when you see what other people are doing. And I feel like it's good to be humbled. You know, like I'm nowhere near where I'd like to be, you know, like personally. And it takes like having some people that you really respect and admire and being able to watch them do their work that like helps you get there, I think.
That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
For you.
Huh?
I can post these links for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you could pop the links in somewhere so I can put it in the feed. Yeah, I mean, really, I think we covered some good stuff, especially, you know, I think currently, you know, our site is new, so we're still trying to figure out exactly what our audience is going to be. I think it's going to be a good mix of working professionals and maybe people trying to break into the business, or people just really like site design and are looking for a way to interact with the community and then learn. And yeah, I kind of agree with what you said about Dribble. Dribble kind of reminds me of like speed dating. And I know it sounds stupid, but if you think about it, you go there and you sit down, you only got 5 minutes to talk to this female or male, whatever you're into. And so you're going to sit there and truthfully lie your ass off. You know, they're going to be like, oh, do you like to read? And you're like, yeah, I read from time to time. Bitch, you read 3 books. That ain't time to time. You know, if you knock out 25 books a year, that's time to time. If you knock out 50 books a year, you're a reader. Knocking out 3 books and then try to say, yeah, you read. Or like I get my fitness on because I went to yoga 3 times last year. That don't count. And, you know, your people are on Dribble, like you say, they're putting sort of their best face forward, but that may not be something that is very repeatable, or they didn't start it from client direction where they're going somewhere between what they feel and what the client wants and trying to find that happy medium, you know?
Yeah, I love Dribble. So, it's show and tell. You know, I mean, people need to understand that it's show and tell. That's all. I mean,
it's like those cats that win like 1 gold medal. 1 gold medal does not make you Michael Phelps. And I understand that's bad because it's hard as heck to win a gold medal. But when you can say you slang 22 of them joints while you were stoned the whole time, that's when you're about the business, you know. All right, cool. If anybody wanted to like holler at you or just, you know, like peep you some design work or whatever, what's the best way to follow you up on the Twitter or like Google, what you into?
Umi Workshop on Twitter and
nice.
Umi.tumblr.com is where I make a lot of noise.
Nice. Hey, speaking of Tumblr, what'd you think about them going in and like stripping out all of the crazy stuff? Actually, wish they didn't do because Lucky is still up.
What do you mean, crazy stuff?
Yahoo, they went by and they stripped out all of the quote-unquote porn, but yeah, like I said, Lucky is still up.
I'm I don't know, man. Like, I follow a lot of people, and I probably shouldn't. I need to unfollow a lot of people, but my feed went from being like not safe for work ever to being like safe for work during business hours usually. So now I can at least open my dashboard in the office without worrying about, you know, some things.
Some things.
It's whatever. I mean, I lost some followers too, but I don't know. It's cool. I love Tumblr, and I always have. Like, one of my favorite services online. I think they're like super fun. You know, like, I don't feel so great about the Yahoo acquisition, but like that's another conversation for another podcast.
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to get in and do a little messing around with CSS and HTML while they're trying to get to learn on, is Tumblr at a state now? I haven't touched my theme in forever. So is Tumblr at a state now where someone can get in there and play without really breaking stuff?
See, that's the thing. Tumblr is not a good place for that, really. Like
Squarespace is.
Squarespace is cool. I would just recommend just building something from scratch. Maybe pulling somebody else's code and then manipulating that could be like, doing Frankenstein stuff is cool. The reason why I say that about Tumblr is because you have to edit all of your code in the browser. So in order for you to see your changes reflected, you need to refresh and all that. Like, it's just not a normal environment for like designing in code. You kind of have to know what you want to do before you do it, and it's not great for experimentation really. But if you could do it offline, then I think there would be more great Tumblr themes. You know what I mean? Like, people would just be cranking them out, like what I'm trying to do right now.
Cool.
I'm gonna release
it. All right. So last question, and then we're gonna get you Aloha up out of here. Tell me something that's, say, maybe non-online, non-tech, something physical that you would recommend to folks. I got one. That's why I want to see if you got something cool.
A physical object?
What, like anything. It could be a service, it could be a bar, it could be a drink, it could be an album, a movie, anything. Something sort of non-computer related, I guess.
Let me think. Okay,
while you're thinking, I'll do mine. I recently scored these from Kickstarter, and these are known as ear skins. And what they look like is this. I have them on the end of my standard issue Apple earbuds. And man, these things are money. Number one, they make them way more comfortable. Number two, they fit so good that they kind of isolate the irritating lady on the side of you talking loud on her phone. they tunnel the bass like in the right areas, so when you are listening to your Erykah Badu, again, you get to hear Erykah and not the irritating lady on the side. They're hella cheap. I think it's like $10. I got 2 pair. Like Nelly, I think I spent about $15 for 2 pair. And man, I would ride on my bike now. They don't fall out, dude. They're like super, super sick. So I would highly recommend these. And the other thing, speaking about riding a bike, I just bought a brand new Trek 7.4 with disc brakes. Oh, that bike is fly. It's so awesome. I can go almost as fast as you now.
Well, I believe it. That's cool. All right, I got something for you. Let me.
As Umi goes and check it out, he's spitting sick off his chair. Once again, don't forget to check us out on bestwebsite.com, and that's bestwebsite with no s.com, with no s at the end. And we'll look to do this like once a week. I'll be pulling in designers and checking them out. So make sure you follow the feed and keep up to date with what we're doing. And there we go.
Okay, so
all right, Mr. Shop.
My recommendation for people is to pick up a copy of Daredevil: End of Days.
Nice.
It's a new trade book, and I don't know if anybody that's listening reads comics, but I'm nearing the end of this right now, and it's written by Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack, and they're like 2 of my favorite people in the world. But basically, like, the whole situation here is that Daredevil has been killed, and there's this investigative journalist that's going through, he's like backtracking through this entire story, and you're like discovering all these things. It's pretty amazing, but the artwork is ridiculous, and the storytelling is like freaking spot on. This is like an instant masterpiece. You know, like this is the sort of book that like movies get made about. Pretty nuts.
Man, that is amazing.
Huge
Holy
fan.
crap.
Yeah, so like it's great, and it's a page turner, and I'm trying to knock out like one trade comic book a week right now. So this is my book for this week, and I'm just racking up my comic book budget. It's pretty nuts. Spending all my savings.
Bro, thank you so much for helping us out in launching what will hopefully be a pretty long podcast. Right now, I'm going to stick to the name Click to Embiggen because we always said we would do that one day. But I don't know, maybe we'll change it. We'll figure it out. But anyway, thank you so much, Umi. Bro, it's been a blessing. God, let me know next time you come home. I got a couple of bottles of this mess to knock back.
Oh, nice. All right, man.
All right, bro. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Peace.